let's say an independent advocate wanted to take up an M&A transaction, is it economically, like, is it viable for them monetarily? Can they actually take up such matters, and like how to identify the right clients? Because the big clients will obviously go to law firms, but what is that space in the market that they can actually target?
See, we are an extremely large country with extremely large number of businesses, extremely large number of opportunities, therefore, for lawyers at different levels. And as you rightly said, if it's a big client going for a big M&A,
Yeah.
an individual practitioner cannot service that client because even if I was to do it within my firm also alone, I can't do it. I need
Yeah.
a team. I need multiple lawyers working on a deal depending on what is the size of the transaction and different specialists for different areas of that transaction. You may need tax lawyers for the tax side of things. You may need corporate lawyers for the transaction project management side of things. You may need competition lawyers like yourself to do the
Yeah.
CCI filings. So you will need different sides of, I think, practitioners advising on the same transaction. And those kind of transactions, of course, individual practitioners may not be able to do. What individual practitioners may be able to do is acting one for a smaller size of the clients. There are lots of clients because, of course, as corporate law firms, we tend to be expensive because our costs are expensive, our lawyers are expensive, that entire structure is expensive. And then there are smaller clients who are not in a position to afford large law firms. And for them, I think, and on smaller deals where there is a simple, straightforward acquisition, you could help them. There is a piece of corporate law advisory, you could do it for them. So depending on, I think that if it's a smaller client, smaller deal size, smaller transaction, you may be able to find a lot of that work in the market. So there is no dearth of that work. And why I say this is because we keep refusing that work. We can't do it below a certain price. And there is a lot of work, we tell our clients that, look, you can't afford us and you will not be able to afford another similar law firm. And you may have to go to somebody who will be able to do it for you. And in that situation, you may find corporate lawyers who outside, I mean, private practitioners who may be doubling their time as corporate lawyers. Ultimately, as lawyers, what do? We determine the rights and obligations of parties, right? And that's the limited scope. I mean, whether you're drafting a document, you're doing a dispute, you're determining who's entitled to what. And as long as you can read the law, you can read the company law, you can read the competition law, you can read the tax law, you can advise on corporate transactions as well. Of course, there is some customary knowledge that you need to learn. I guess if you have worked with a corporate law firm in the past, you may have learned it, or if you can learn it from other sources, courses, or whatever. There may be a lot of, there is, like I mentioned, all this deal transaction, what is the trajectory of the deal transaction, what are the terms of M&A documents.
Usually people who are companies which are acquiring or buying are the ones who actually hire law firms and are in a position to hire law firms. But let's say those who are on the target side, they can approach these, not so expensive lawyers to just review the transactions and supervise that whether everything is going fine or not.
That's true, Shweta. The only thing is that, again, target size also depends on who's the target. I mean, there are very matured, large targets who would hire the best of the firms. Sometimes targets have better lawyers than the acquirers also. So it totally depends on, I think, who the target is. But yes, the smaller startups, for example, startups could be a good opportunity where they don't have initial, they've just gone through, so the ones who had multiple rounds of private equity funding, they won't hire private practitioners, but somebody who's just had a seed funding or first tranche of venture capital funding, they may be unable to hire a lawyer.
Companies, and they may not be able to afford lawyers, so they just have to follow the investors, or let's say the company. So in that case, they can approach these lawyers, at least these upcoming startups. And for all those people who want to get into M&A work, I think this could be a good starting point to target all these accelerators which have startups, and you can just get in touch with them.
That, and I think there are also these lot of these old styled Indian companies which historically worked only with chartered accountants. If you ask them where they get legal advice from, they got it from a chartered accountant.
Yes.
When they are now becoming matured and understanding that they need to take a legal advice from a lawyer and not from a chartered accountant, but they are still not ready to pay the fee of a law firm. So that can also
rather pay the CA.
Yeah, they because CAs don't charge, or CA will not charge enough to them, and therefore they will just take off the cuff advice from a CA and work on that basis. And now they are moving to lawyers, so that could be an opportunity.